the problem with martial arts generally is because they are traditional values, they cease to evolve with the general system of the world, of human existence. Does that make sense?
And
Because
why do you
most
think that
martial
is?
artists are,
Mhm.
because they're not really taught to think. You're taught in a martial art. Here's the problem with martial arts. Basically, you are learning something that's been taught hundreds of years ago, an idea,
Yeah.
concept. And that concept's been passed down word of mouth to another person. It hasn't been critically analyzed. It hasn't been, it's just been passed down verbatim to another person, who's then passed it to another person, who's then passed it to another person. Let alone the problems of Chinese whispers in the terms of it becoming very murky as it goes down, because we know that, because that's a parable, Chinese whispers, it's not a racial slur. Basically, you know, it gets more watered down as it goes down. So why, pray tell, would we as martial artists, and I'm going to try to put this out across, want to do something that was done hundreds of years ago when the world has changed? For example, hundreds of years ago, people used to go around on horsebacks with swords, spears, whatever. Nowadays, people drive by with cars and guns. What you did then does not apply to what you do now. And this is my point. Every field in human existence, in terms of science, even athletics and sports, has evolved. Now, martial arts, and I can say this about the Wing Chun community, it's the only community where people actually want to do something that people were doing 100 years ago. They want to fight the same way that someone was fighting 100 years ago. Well, people have evolved. I mean, the world of mixed martial arts has basically changed the martial art arena, so much so that we know that there's so many different ways to fight, so many different ways to do, you know, to approach fighting, that you can't think like you did in feudal Japan, because people these days are very different. They move differently. They are physically different as well. They're bigger, fitter, you know, through nutrition. They are, you know,
healthier.
More effective. Exactly. Most people physically relatively fit. You know, pre-war days, I'm talking about Second World War, that, you know, the level of nutrition would have been quite low. People would have been quite small, very unenergetic. I mean, if you think about China, they went through a famine. Was it the start of communism, or was that what led to communism? But I do remember historically reading that they had a mass famine, and it was so extreme that obviously a lot of families were dying. So you've got to think the population of people would have been quite small, very
sickly,
emancipated. Exactly. So what I'm trying to say is, you compare that to modern, even you compare it to modern Chinese youth, quite big, you know, physically stature's quite tall. It's very different, very, very different. So it just astounds me, especially in Wing Chun, that people can say, oh, I've got to do this because this is how they did it. You know, I know 100 years ago, this is how it Monday, or what have you. That isn't necessarily going to stead you in a good stead in the modern world, and you have to evolve. And I think the problem with martial arts generally is because they are traditional values, they cease to evolve with the general system of the world, of human existence. Does that make sense?